In occupied Zaporizhzhia, a Russian military train rumbled along the tracks, loaded with fuel and ammunition, vital lifeblood for the southern front. 47 wagons gleamed in the sun, guarded by confident soldiers who believed nothing could touch them. But high above, 12 small, nearly silent drones approached, ghosts in the sky, invisible to electronic eyes. These drones carried only small explosives, but together they had a mission: destroy the train below. Operators, hidden miles away, watched through cameras, guiding their machines with precision. The train rolled on, unaware of the danger descending from above. This was David versus Goliath. 12 cheap drones against a $100 million war machine. The world was about to witness what happens when silent, clever tactics meet brute force. The silence was their greatest weapon, about to be shattered by a massive explosion. The stage was set for a new kind of battle. Small, smart technology against a giant, powerful machine. The calm before the storm was about to end. The operators waited for the perfect moment. The train, a symbol of Russian might, was in their sights. The drones moved closer, electric motors humming quietly. The soldiers below had no idea their fortress was vulnerable. The quiet approach was the key. The silence would soon give way to chaos. The attack was about to begin. This was no ordinary train. It was the artery of Russia's war effort in the south. 47 wagons carried thousands of tons of fuel and explosives, enough to supply 3 mechanized divisions, 12,000 soldiers, and 200 armored vehicles. Without this train, tanks would stall, guns would fall silent, and the Russian front would weaken. The Tokmak-Molokhansk-Fedorivka railway was a main supply line. Losing it would cripple Russian logistics. Every wagon delivered meant more destruction for Ukraine. Stopping this train wasn't just about supplies, it was about saving lives and shifting the balance of power. The mission was high risk, high reward. If the drones failed, Russia's war machine would roll on. But if they succeeded, the impact would echo for weeks. The destruction of this single train could change the course of the fighting in the region. The stakes were enormous. Ukrainian forces knew this was their moment. The outcome would be felt far beyond the battlefield. The train's fate would shape the war. The Russians knew the railway was a target and built a fortress of electronic warfare to protect it. Powerful jamming trucks created a field of electronic noise, blocking radio and GPS signals. Most drones would lose contact, crash, or wander aimlessly in this digital storm. Artillery and autocannons stood ready, soldiers trained to spot and shoot down threats. The train's most exposed stretch was heavily guarded, with jammers blasting 30 kilowatts of interference. The defenders believed their technology made them untouchable. Their strategy relied on the assumption that all enemy drones used radio or GPS. They were prepared for a conventional attack, confident in their digital shield. But they didn't expect something that played by different rules. The Russians watched the skies, certain their defenses were impenetrable. Their confidence was their weakness. The train moved through its danger zone, surrounded by layers of protection. The soldiers felt safe, but the real threat was invisible. The perfect trap was set for the wrong kind of enemy. The defenders were ready for yesterday's war. They weren't ready for what was coming. The Ukrainian drones had a secret fiber optic cables, thinner than fishing line, trailing behind each drone. These cables used pulses of light, not radio, to send commands, making the drones immune to jamming. Russian electronic warfare was useless. The drones flew through the digital shield unnoticed. Operators saw through the drone's camera and flew manually, like a video game. No GPS needed. This innovation let them operate in no-fly zones, invisible to enemy sensors. The drones were ghosts, digitally silent, impossible to jam. The operators, safe in a bunker, had perfect real-time control. The fiber optic link was unbreakable, giving them total command. This simple, brilliant idea turned Russia's greatest strength into a weakness. The battlefield had changed. The drones were ready to challenge the very idea of military power. The Russians searched for signals that didn't exist. The attack would come from the silence. The drones' final approach broke the silence, their motors detected by Russian acoustic sensors. Instantly, Russian artillery opened fire, shells exploding near the hidden Ukrainian operators. The ground shook. The operators knew they'd been found. Every second, another shell could land closer. But the mission continued. The train was almost at safety. The operators focused, guiding their drones through a sky filled with explosions. Russian artillery fired blindly, adjusting with each shot, trying to hit the hidden bunker. The operators worked under extreme pressure, racing against time and enemy fire. The tension was unbearable, but the mission came first. The Russian defenses were powerful, but not precise. The operators' courage was tested with every passing second. The drones pressed on, closing in on their target. The hunters had become the hunted. The outcome hung in the balance. The attack moved to its next phase. The train entered its most vulnerable stretch, 2 kilometers of open track, just 90 seconds from safety. For the drone operators, this was the moment of truth. Russian autocannons opened fire, tracer rounds lighting up the sky. The drones had to weave through a deadly maze of bullets. 2 drones were hit and exploded mid-air. 10 remained. The operators adapted using fiber optic control to swerve unpredictably. The drones danced through the storm, dodging fire. Russian gunners struggled to track their erratic movements. The train sped up, desperate to escape. The remaining drones pressed forward, the pressure mounting. This was a duel. Human pilots versus human gunners. Remote machines against rapid-fire cannons. The odds were against the drones, but the operators didn't panic. Every second counted. The train was almost out of reach. The operators pushed their machines to the limit. The final approach was underway. The decisive moment had arrived. The Ukrainian plan was more than just a direct strike. As autocannon fire raged, 2 drones broke away, carrying thermite charges. Their target, the railway tracks behind the train. Thermite burns hot enough to melt steel. These drones aimed to trap the train. They dove low, igniting the rails in a white-hot blaze. The tracks warped and severed. The train was trapped, unable to escape. This move turned a difficult attack into a certain kill. The main drones now focused on the stationary target. Russian defenders watched in horror as their escape route vanished. Panic set in. The train was a sitting duck. The psychological blow was immense. The Ukrainian plan was flexible, strategic, a chess move on a real battlefield. The prey was cornered. The remaining drones closed in. The defenders' hopes were gone. The trap was complete. The final strike was imminent. The drones' batteries were nearly spent. The final attack had to happen now. As they dove, fiber optic cables detached. The drones flew the last stretch on autopilot. The first drone hit the coupling between wagons, breaking the train in 2. The second drone struck a fuel wagon. An instant fireball erupted. Flames engulfed the nearby cars, packed with ammunition. A chain reaction of explosions tore through the train. The sky turned orange, shock waves and debris flying for miles. 20 wagons were destroyed instantly, the rest burned. The roar of detonations lasted minutes. The mighty train was reduced to a burning wreck. $140 million in supplies vanished in fire. The Russian lifeline was cut. The silent drones had unleashed devastation. As the smoke cleared, the scale of destruction was clear. The Russian train was gone, a critical supply line severed. Ukraine had achieved a stunning victory with a handful of cheap, clever drones. The financial and strategic cost to Russia was enormous. This attack forced a new question. Where does true power come from in modern war? Russia brought brute force and heavy defenses. Ukraine brought ingenuity, fiber optic cables, smart tactics, and courage. The victory belonged to the side that adapted fastest. The battle in Zaporizhzhia may mark a turning point. The wars of tomorrow may be won by those who innovate, not those with the biggest guns. The silent drones gave their answer in a ball of fire. The future of warfare had arrived.